Hi, this is Abby with the Bead Place and beadplace.net, and today I'm going to show you how to make a not natural bracelet. So it's a really fun wraparound bracelet using hemp and size 6 seed beads. So the first thing I'm going to do is gather all my materials. So I have a pile here of size 6 seed beads, and depending on the length and how sporadic you want to place your beads, the number of beads that you're going to use will vary. I have a button. And so this is a tiara cast leaf button. You can find those on the website. You just want to make sure that your button has holes in it and that they are large enough to fit the hemp through twice. So then I've got my card of hemp. This is the 10-pound hemp. And I have scissors. So I'm going to start out by cutting 2 lengths of my arms outstretched wide. So I've already pre-cut one of my lengths, and then to kind of show you the length that I need, I'm just going to undo the hemp here. So I'm going to take my arms outstretched wide, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. So, right like that. So then I'm going to cut. So that's 2 pieces of 2 arm length pieces of hemp. I'm going to take 2 of the ends through the hole in the button. And then back through the other way. So I have centered the button on my hemp cord, and what I'm going to do is tie an overhand knot. So I'm going to take the cord right below the button and make a loop out of it, and I'm going to take the button through that loop and kind of pull on each individual cord, and that's going to make your knot really tight. Okay, so what we want to do is separate the 4 cords and take one. Alright, so I've got one, and I'm going to start fairly close to the knot, and I'm going to tie an overhand knot. So I'm making a loop and pulling the tail end through. And I'm going to place the knot pretty close to that overhand knot that I started with. So see how my knot is right here? I'm going to place that pretty close to my knot. So leave this knot fairly loose. The reason why I say that is because the hemp kind of varies in thickness, and so sometimes with wear the beads will want to pop over the knots. So just kind of leave it fairly loose, and you can kind of string the beads on and see if they'll go over. So after you've tied your overhand knot, string on 3 beads. Check to make sure that they don't fit and slide over the knot. And they don't, so that's good. If they did, what you would want to do is tie another overhand knot right directly on top of that first knot. So I'm going to try to tie another overhand knot as close to these beads as I can. So again, I'm going to start with the loop and take the tail end through and pull it out. And then I'm going to just kind of push this knot down towards the beads as I tighten it. Check to make sure the beads don't slide over that end of the knot, which they don't, so I am good to go. So you see how I have a knot on either side of these beads. I am going to go to a different thread now. So I'm going to separate my threads again, and with my next thread I'm going to tie a knot a little bit farther down. So I've got an overhand knot. I'm going to add 3 beads, and I'm going to pull those down towards the knot. So again, check to make sure that they don't slide over the knot, which they don't, and then tie another overhand knot directly after those beads. So if you're having trouble placing the knots, you can use a tweezers or a toothpick to help you guide the knot a little bit closer. If you mess up, and if your knot lands somewhere where it's not supposed to, it's fairly easy to take the knot out and then put it where it belongs. So you see how I have these beads kind of stair-stepping. I'm going to do the next one a little bit farther than that one. So I've got a loop on my third thread, and I'm going to tie an overhand knot just like before. Then I'm going to string 3 beads on and bring them all the way down, and always check to make sure that they're not going to slide over the knot, because like I said, there is differences in the sizes of the hemp throughout the card, so you want to just double check that they're not going to slide over. So again, tie your overhand knot very close to the end. I'm sorry, very close to the beads. And there we go. So I'm then going to take my 4th cord and I'm going to tie it just right after where the 3rd beads were. So I've got another overhand knot. Again, I'm going to string 3 beads on. Check to make sure they don't slide over. And another knot. So far, I have something that looks like this. So I'm going to keep working just like how I'm doing until I get about 2 times my wrist length. So I'll see you then. Okay, so I just ran into a point on the hemp where it was a little bit thin and my beads want to slide right over that knot that I just tied. So what I'm going to do is take the beads back off and then place an overhand knot right directly on top of where this knot is. So I'm going to make a loop and make sure that your knot is inside that loop. Bring the tail end through. Kind of put your fingers on either side while you're tightening either side of the knot, and this is going to ensure that that knot is going to land right directly over the top of the first knot. So just like that. Okay, so I have completed enough beadwork for it to go around my wrist and then finish up. So you can see the button is right here and my last bead is here. So I'm going to stop and make sure that all of my ends are pretty well even, and grab it and isolate one of the threads and tie a half hitch knot around the other threads. So what that is you're still holding them all together. You're going to make a loop with the one. So I've made a loop. I'm going to take the thread under, around the other side of those 3 threads, and then pull it through the loop that we've made. And we're basically tying a knot around the 3 threads. And so that's a half hitch knot. Okay, so we're going to adjust the tension. Tighten the half hitch knot. And so it should look like this. So what you're going to do is start binding the 3 threads with the one that you've tied the half hitch with. So what you're doing is you're actually just coiling this one thread tightly around the other threads. So I'm taking it over and under and over and under, and I'm just making a coil. And I'm going to try to keep it as tight as I can and as close as I can. So I'm just wrapping it around and around. So I'm going to work on that for a little bit. So say that you didn't have really long tail ends and you were running out of thread. What you'd want to do is pull the wrapping thread back into the 3 and grab a new thread and continue on with those. So basically what I'm doing is I am coiling the hemp until I have about twice the length of my button. So when it's folded over, it makes like a little eye for the button to go through. So you want to make sure that you have enough done so that the button can just slide through. So I've folded it over, and what I'm going to do is take the hemp that I am binding with and then just go around both of them a few times. And this time I am binding downward just a few times towards the beads. Okay, so I'm bringing the binding hemp around clockwise. So what I'm going to do is take the 3 that are coming out of the what you're binding, and I'm going to go counterclockwise. So if my binding hemp is going clockwise, my other ones are going to go around counterclockwise, and vice versa. So I'm just going to wrap those around one time, and I'm going to take my binding hemp around to meet them around the other side. And then what I'm going to do is tie them together in a square knot. So that's taking this one on the right side and going over and under and through. And you still want to keep everything as tight as you can get it. So tie that really tight. And then one more time for extra security. Now we're going to take the thread or the hemp and do the same thing. So take it over and through to create that square knot. Okay, so pull really tight, and remember my tip: when you have multiple threads, you're going to pull each one individually, and that's really going to tighten everything up. So then you can put a little drop of glue if you wish, and then trim the tail ends. And we've just made a really cool wraparound bracelet. So thanks for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the projects and tutorials that we offer, check out our website at www.beadplace.net or our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/thebeadplace. Have a good one.